Members of the company, this is your places call. Places, please. Places for the top of the podcast. Places, please.
Get ready for a behind-the-scenes look at the glitz and not-so-glam of Broadway, education, and everyday life with Uncommon Sense. Join hosts Christopher Smith and Charna Lopez as they bring you the best stories and shenanigans that seemingly prove how elusive common sense can really be. So take a little time for yourself to hang out with the dynamic duo Charnopher, and no leaving early, because you might just miss that 11 o'clock number.
Stand by music. Music, go.
Uncommon sense, the 11 o'clock number. And we are Charnopher.
Hey, Charna.
Hello, Christopher.
A little riff.
A little riff.
That's
To
right.
start you out today.
And sometimes you need to do a little riff when you're having a hard moment. Maybe like sometimes people say,
Correct.
People say they're like, sometimes you just gotta laugh so you don't hit people or cry. And that's so true. That's so true. Sometimes you do just have to laugh. Or riff.
Yes.
Truly.
They both work.
Yeah, because today I think we're going to talk a little bit about what I'm calling Mercury Rising. And I have come up with this phrase because there's certain people in this on this podcast that
I'm the only other person here, so I think it must be
you who there's certain moments in time where you can literally, like a thermometer, watch the red go up the face. So I want you to explain that more, Charna.
I will, as you drink your coffee. I love it. I love your coffee matching your shirt today, Christopher. If you guys can't see, Christopher's wearing a lovely cobalt blue shirt, and his coffee mug matches. Okay, now back to Mercury Rising and Charna. We'll probably talk about the first time you saw it happen. I don't know, but I'm quite a put together, reasonable, patient person. Not with my family sometimes. I think I have much more patience with my students and at work until I don't. And I literally have a face that gets red, and I know I can feel it in my ears when it's going to happen. And you can see my face go from this like regular white Charna to red. And my students, I tell them, I'm like, I'll even call it, I'm like, is my face getting red? And they're like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm like, this is a bad sign. We have taken Charna to a point. Mrs. Lopez is now at a point that she needs to have some words with you, or we are going to take a moment and turn a page. But yeah, it is like a physical thing.
Yeah,
that happens.
I've seen
I know you've seen it. And usually it's after a long rehearsal process, or just a day or a week within a show or a class that has been really tricky, and all of my patience is now
so gone. How often does that happen for you, Charna Lopez?
Usually once a show. There's usually two things that happen in a show for me. There's usually an awful tech day. We all have. It's usually the second tech for me. Like I already even know it coming in that I'm like, this is
okay. But then,
and then there's a Mercury Rising day.
If you are already going into it thinking this tech day is going to be bad, are you projecting that and coming in from a bad place? I don't know.
Probably, but also I'd rather just get it out of the way, right? You know, there's always going to be one.
That's right.
So I'd rather just I'd rather just get it out of the way. So I have that during tech, but then the Mercury Rising can happen. It doesn't need to be in tech. It could be in just like a regular rehearsal. And I think it's like a lot of things have to align. Like I have to maybe be a little tired or having a bad day outside. The students have to be like not on their game and annoying and having a bad day. And it's like the combination of it all is like a fireball. And then it goes, but once a production and maybe once a semester in a class, maybe. It's a rare sighting.
It's like Bigfoot. I don't think I have experienced it in class per se, although sometimes the seniors get real close. And they know this. But definitely it's not every show, but it's usually like there's like one point, and it's usually during tech that it happens to me. And you can't see it like you can with you. That's like a special power. It's
That's a Charna thing.
But my favorite one that I remember for myself was when we were doing Willy Wonka together, and we were in Symphony Hall. Now, everybody who doesn't know Symphony Hall, everybody who's never been to OSHA out in the world, it's like an old church, and it has like what would have been the choir loft up in the back, like a balcony, and that's where like basically the tech booth is, or one of the tech booths, whatever, and lighting. And so Charna and I are up there watching the show, doing stuff. We're starting a new scene. We're in a hold, everybody.
Oh, hold on. I'm going to interject. This is a middle school production, 7th through 9th grade, with 532 children, Oompa Loompas, on stage.
I didn't say it was a shining moment.
Just putting that out there.
But thank you for making it seem less shining. And I had just left backstage with all the Oompa Loompas. Like I walked from backstage up to the balcony, and I had just spent a good 3 minutes talking to them about make sure you're fully dressed, make sure you have all your things, make sure blah, 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 blah. I specifically mentioned socks. It's always the little things. It's the little things that push you over the edge. I don't remember what else happened to get me to that point. But anyway, I get up there and I'm looking down, and like 2 from the end, if you go from stage right over 2 people, all of a sudden I see an Oompa Loompa not wearing socks. And I lose it. I want to throw things. I get on the microphone and the God mic, and I start yelling something like, Oompa Loompas, number whatever, where are your socks? Where are your socks? Why do you not have socks on?
No, I mean, Christopher, you grabbed that microphone out of my hand. Like, I am recalling the situation very clearly now. First of all, Christopher was the musical director. He's not the costumer, and he's not the director. And something flipped inside you. You grabbed that microphone and you were like, Oompa, number 3, where are your socks? And I think the kid peed their pants, probably. I'm not sure. They were just like, huh. And all the kids start looking at their feet like, who doesn't have the socks? And then you're like, I'm that kid.
Go get your socks right now. I don't know.
I don't even remember which student it was.
It doesn't even matter. It was a moment, again, I didn't say I was proud of this moment, but it was that moment where something coalesced. I was probably in my own lane doing things they weren't listening to, and so then something out of my lane happened, and I was like, I can't. Because here's the thing about me and lanes. I really try hard to stay in my own lane. We should do a whole episode on staying in your own lane. But
yeah, 100%. Put that on the list. I'm making it down.
But I also, because I also do other things, and I create shows and do summer camps and do these other positions and co-direct and things like that. It's hard for me when I know things to just stay out of it. But I couldn't in that moment. I was like, nope, incorrect. Put your dang socks on. Incorrect. And I just said that. What did I just
I mean, there's
say?
been so many times that we'll walk. past each other and we're like, stay in your own lane, stay in your own lane, stay in your own lane. Like we have to mantra and chant that to ourselves a lot.
That's not even an
episode. But you know, Christopher, I mean, I will say though, I think when it's you doing it, it's worse than it really is. So like often the times that I do things, Mercury Rising moments, I'm like afterward, I'll sit with the creative team and usually it's either you or Becca. And Miss Skoglund the past couple shows where I'm just like, dude, I hate when I lose it on the kids like that. And they're like, what are you talking about? It wasn't that bad. I'm like, really? Because in my brain, I'm like a crazy, like, dinosaur lady coming down. They're
like the Hulk comes
really, I was
out.
Probably like, you guys,
it's like
you're
the
annoying.
Hulk comes out, and you turn red. You're like the Red Hulk.
But I think it's not as bad. Yeah, it's not as bad, you know, when it's from the outsider perspective. And I think, and I've been told this a lot, I don't see any reason as a human, as an educator, as a parent, as a mentor to ever scream at people. There's just no, if you're screaming at someone or yelling at someone, it's on you. There's something like you can get your point across. It's like in parenting. My kids respond so much better when I get like this to them. Ruby May Lopez, what are you doing? You know, or when you like get in their face quietly, you know? So I think like when I do raise my voice, I'm not screaming at kids. It's just a moment of like, hey, and honestly, some of my students have actually not thanked me, but been like, we needed that, Mrs. Lopez. We needed that moment. You know, I think it helps just like bring them back into like, y'all can't be hooligans all the time. You know,
hooliganery.
I have one. Can I tell one of my stories when it happened?
Tell your stories.
Mercury Rising. Okay. I wish we had our friend Becca on this podcast. We might have to have her on at some point, and she was there when this happened, and this is probably one of the very clear ones for me. We were doing Thoroughly Modern Millie at OSHA. This was years ago, and it was one of our first times. I think it was our second show in Symphony Hall, and we had been doing our smaller shows as our program was growing over in the Black Box. And we had moved into the larger theater, and we were so excited. We had this great scenic design and wonderful cast. Nicole Morris, who we should have Nicole on here. I'll have to get Nicole on here. She's a freshman and she played Millie, and she was so fabulous. Like the talent was great. The cast was great. We're doing great. And it was Tech Week, and our crew, for some reason, if you know Millie, there's a scene in the end where they're in the laundry room and there's like a shadow behind a sheet that's been held up like in the laundry room, and they kiss behind the sheet. It's like the end of the show. And then it all has to get struck so they can come down for the finale when like 300 children enter the stage and dance and, you know. Well, they had the clothesline and the lights went out, but the crew didn't strike the clothesline. And here come 20 of my students in tap shoes, literally going to be clotheslined. Like they're literally, they can't see in the dark. And Becca, when Becca tells this story, she's like, I have never seen you move so fast from seat J5 to the stage. I think I jumped over things. I was like, hey, like I mean, Mercury Rising was like in 0.2 seconds. I get down there. I'm like, what are you doing? Hold. I'm like screaming, hold. They finally like hold. Kids are like in the, you know, the line, and the crew's standing there. And I'm like, you have to strike this. Like I was mad. And they're like, okay. You know, and they strike it. I'm like, someone's going to get injured. You know, I like, especially when someone's going to get hurt. I took it up the level. But my favorite thing that Becca tells is they get it done. And I turn around and I'm walking back and I'm like, you can't teach common sense, which is literally ties right in to the title of our podcast, Uncommon Sense. And Becca, to this day, like we have this moment where she's like, you can't teach common sense, because it's true. Like my thing was, that's not talent. Striking a clothesline so kids don't get clotheslined is not talent. It's just common sense. We should remove this in the blackout so said humans entering don't get strangled. Yeah. So that was definitely one of my biggest ones that I was
That's
like,
an important moment though, because I think that yes, it's never good to scream at people, but when safety is an issue, screaming is secondary to injury. But you know, along with that, for any directors, teachers, people in charge of people listening, we're not perfect. We all know we're not perfect. We're all human, and we just do the best we can. And you just have to move. You don't beat yourself up about it too much. You just have to move forward. Now, if
Yeah.
you catch yourself doing it all the
And I
time,
think, like I mentioned earlier too, like,
see a therapist.
yeah, and I think there's time and place for it. And I think in our world of
Yeah.
teaching, you and I, Christopher, are the same in that we love to have fun. We love having good rapport with the students. We love to create and have this environment of like not relaxed, but like working and fun. And the second the working no longer happens, or the paying attention or being prepared, or the expectations, like then the fun goes out the window, is kind of, I
That's
feel
true.
like, how we both work, and you have to reset. We don't get to have fun. And I say this often with teenagers, in particular, more so outside of school. I feel like at the studio or like, this is where you're supposed to have fun, but we have to work before we can have the fun. Because if we don't put in the work, then it's not fun. We have a sucky show that's not put together. You're not living up to your expectations. So yeah, I think there's time and place for it. And I know a lot of our people listening who do this for a living or in some sort of industry like this probably have very similar moments, I'm sure.
And if anybody wants to share any, send them over to us on the Instagram. Follow us, Charnopher Official.
The IG.
I'll say it again later. For those of you watching, you get to see a pose of the great Charna Lopez. Yeah, it's a it's a thing. And people that are on the receiving end of that, again, just have grace. We don't hate you. We don't hate you, I promise. And if we do hate you, it's not because of that.
And like I said, some students even like thank us, or if they've thanked me, when I think there's maybe one time as like a cast, I had to sit kids down and be like, hey, yesterday was not good all around for me, for you guys, like, we're going to move forward. But I'll have students, I think, oftentimes that are like, no, we needed that. We needed that moment of like, hey, we got to get back on track.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens as a parent too.
Oh, let's talk about that.
I think one thing,
Mercury Rising as a parent.
Yeah, let's. Well, and I think for me, okay, I could do 7
we got
different
time
episodes on this, but I think if I'm gonna kind of my parenting style in a nutshell, kids, well, everyone has different parenting styles, and I think that as a parent is good to understand. So, certain parents are gonna parent one way, other parents are gonna parent another way. I think one big, huge learning thing for me was that kids are different. So I have 2 stepdaughters who I've known since they were very, very little. And then I have my son's 11 and my daughter's 7, and all 4 of them respond differently to discipline, to conversation, to, I don't want to say confrontation, but all of them are different. And once you think you've got it figured out with one kid, you go to do it with the next one and you're like, hey friends, why are you not, And I think as a parent, that's tricky because, you have certain things you want to instill. You have certain things you want to utilize as a parent. And then there's that moment for me where I'm like, okay, no, I know Sebastian will respond differently if I'm this way, whereas Ruby will respond differently if I'm this way. And I think sometimes that's difficult. I will say something that I've tried to get better about is, especially as your kids get a little bit older, like right now in particular with Sebastian, because I think at 8 to 12, they start to really find their own personalities and their own way of dealing with things. So if a kid is going to yell, I constantly look at like, well, are they mimicking me? Are they seeing me yell at them when I'm upset about something? Because then that's what they're being shown, right? Now, I'm not saying I never yell. I yell. There are times that I yell, but I will often, and I can remember in particular in a very recent instance, I was so overwhelmed in the morning, trying to get everything done. And both kids were sitting on the couch with their iPads. And I was like, Mercury is rising. And I scared them. Like Sebastian told me, he's like, you scared me. And I said, well, I'm glad I scared you because you need to realize I'm a human, I apologized and I said, I am sorry that I scared you, but do you understand why I was so upset. And I think for me, it's often taking that time. I'm really good at it now with Sebastian. Like, I need a timeout. Like, we're not going to talk about this right now. I need a timeout. And then when we can come back and I say, I'm sorry. I lost my temper. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that. Here is what I was feeling. Here is what, and I think kids are able to understand that at such an early age. And I think parents, a lot of them, they're too proud. Like, I'm the parent, I'm doing it the right way. So whatever I did was right. And it's like, these kids need to see that you're just a human and humans make mistakes. It's so important.
It is important. And like, I'm not home all day like Joy is with the kids. And I find myself when I'm around all the time, I definitely do have more like compassion's not the right word, but more understanding of because I'm not a critical person, but in my brain's a critical brain. It's like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? What's happening? Generally it doesn't come out, but Joy, one thing I will say is Joy's super good. Like if she like loses her temper with Grayson, it's usually Grayson. Let's be honest. If she
There's usually one kid over another. I totally get that.
But same thing already. She's like super good about coming to him and apologizing and talking to him about it, because that's also so important because none of us are perfect. As I said before, we're all human and we all function differently. Like, she's not a yeller by any stretch and neither am I really. But it is important to be able to model that as well, because they need to also understand that when you do something that is less than stellar, you can apologize for it and it's good and it's okay.
Yes. And it's a hard thing to learn, right? So like I even admitted to Sebastian several months ago, I'm like, buddy, I'm not great at apologizing. I don't think a lot of people, because
some people are better than others. I am the worst.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I feel like I'm trying to be better, but I think it's a personal thing where it's like, if you apologize, you're saying you were wrong
100%.
and you did something wrong. And that's hard, especially as a parent, when you want to be right and not just to be right, but to be the parent. Right. And I think I've seen it so many times with Sebastian in particular and Ruby too. But there are certain instances where I want them to apologize for something they've done to maybe each other or whatnot. And it's not there naturally. And I'm like, you know what? The more I can model that, the better chance they're going to have at being like, okay, yeah, that was not cool. I need, and at a kid level, it's as much as I'm sorry. And I always make them say for what, because there's nothing worse than a kid's like, I'm sorry. And you're like, okay. And I'll say, for what? I'm sorry that I was giving you attitude, Mom, or I'm sorry for saying that to my sister, or I'm sorry for, so at least it's connecting. But yeah, I think I have way more Mercury rising as a parent than as a teacher.
Which makes sense.
And I will always say, like, my students think I'm so patient, and I think I'm one of the most impatient people in the world.
Okay,
like,
well, I am here to tell you, you are very impatient, and I am too. But I think, we've talked about this though, because people also who know me as an impatient person, they're like, how can you like be a teacher and be that impatient? I'm like, well, I'm not. I am. It's one of those things where I'm like I always say, I'm really, really nice until I'm not. It's the same type of thing where I am really patient with someone who I don't have the expectation of having done the work and knowing it already. If you're learning something for the first time, I'm going to be very patient. I'm like, I don't expect you to know things I haven't taught you yet. Then you're just an idiot.
But when your own child leaves their dang shoes on the stairs for the 759th time, there's no more patience.
That's right.
There's no more mommy patience.
Right. But that kind of falls into that category. Like, and I think professionally, we are also both very impatient. And I think it's actually because of that. Because we're like, we could have done it 500 times already. Why is it not done yet? Like, I can go paint that box like at 2 hours ago. Why is it still
This is
black?
why I think we work. Yes. And I think you and I, that's why we work well together. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm finding certain people I work well with, because it's this, I don't want to say tempo, but it's this rate of like, okay, we cannot sit around. Like, we can do all of these things. We move quickly. We have our stuff together. And I think sometimes as a parent, though, that's hard because I have to stop and be like, okay, my kids are not my employees. My kids are not my coworkers. They're my kids and they're different. Like Ruby getting ready in the morning. I mean, my husband, if y'all at one point, we'll have to have J-Lo on here. He's the most patient person that I have ever met in my entire life. And thank goodness I'm married to him, because talk about like opposites attract. He's so patient and so calm and so like, it's fine. And I need that so much. But I think where I'm going to see my husband snap is one morning when my daughter will not get out of bed. Ruby literally rolls down the stairs, like grabs her breakfast and into the car. Like she cannot. Whereas Sebastian is awake at 6. He does a workout. He's got all of his clothes ready. He's organized. He's sitting.
He's you.
And Ruby is like, you know, yeah. And we're like, Ruby, come on downstairs. And she's like, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm getting my hair clipped. Like she just is. There's no fire under her booty. And it's that impatient
but I will
moment
say,
of like, child.
That sounds like that's
my child.
I will say that's probably your husband's genes in that situation. Not gonna lie. So if he ever loses
because
his
we'll
temper,
also talk about when we leave as a family. But like when we leave as a family, I'm like ready to go. Like let's go. And Jerry's like, we'll get this. It's fine. We'll be like 15 minutes late. We're good. I'm like,
so it's funny because
we need to go right now. Like it's.
I am the Jerry. Joy is the like, get in the car, get the kids in the car. Why? I said I wanted to leave by like before 9 and it's 9:02. And I'm like, it's fine. Yep. Like it literally just happened yesterday. We were trying to take Grace into a doctor's appointment. And I was like, it's a doctor's appointment. They're always an hour late. So it's fine. They weren't an hour late and we got there and everything. But it's just like, but
it messes with your brain. It messes with Joy's day. It messes with her brain. Do you think though, Christopher, and I can say this for myself, I have mellowed a bit, right? So I think first of all, you have to. That's such a marriage relationship thing. Like I choose my battles. I'm no longer losing my mind if certain things occur, but you start to kind of give in a little bit in certain areas, and I think the other person does too. You kind of find that happy medium.
Yeah, I think, and another thing to Joy's credit, she is always she's a person that always like strives to be not changing, what's the word, growing. Like she's always looking how to be better. That is one of her greatest strengths, I think, as a human. And I'm not that way so much.
Especially as
I'm like, I'm
human.
good. Let's like, I don't have time to grow. I've got 500 things to do.
Wait, I'm going to set that as your goal for this year. We're going to find one area for Christopher to grow.
I mean, I do. And she has drugged me kicking and screaming
That's cool.
a couple times, you know, like, and I usually hate it because I'm like, I'm just tired. I don't want to talk about that. I'm just tired. Can I just sit and watch TV? Because, you know, I have 5 minutes to sit down. So, but it's great. And with that, all that to say, because that's the way Joy functions, yes, the long and short of it is she definitely has mellowed in many respects and adapted, and it's great. She's awesome. So
I think it's just such a cool thing about relationships. And I would love, you know, as we start to get listeners or viewers or people kind of interacting with us, I love to hear tips, ideas, like building off what we're talking about, or even as teachers with our students. I don't feel like it happens as often as a director or teacher. It's very, you know, my students can probably tell you when it does. But I think as a parent, there's some really good strategies, I think. And I'm sure a lot of people have certain similar instances where they've done things like that. And I think I can even remember now, and this is so funny because, you know, we're 30-10.
Right.
I can remember now times when I was like, man, why is my mom so annoyed with me? And I'm like, oh, because I was doing exactly what my kids are doing to me now, you know? And now as a grown person, you look back and you're like, she just was trying to get through her day as a single mom, or she was trying to get things organized and I wasn't being helpful, or whatever it may be. And if you ask my mom, she'll tell you that I was a good kid. I was a good kid. Just like my kids are great kids. I mean, my kids are really good kids. But there's still those moments. And I think this kind of goes into another vein that we could have an episode for sure, Christopher, about how you're a parent and not their friend. And, you know, we see that a lot with our students now where
already.
So do I. And at the end of the day, I want my kids to like me. Of course I do. But I want my kids to respect me. I want my kids to come to me for whatever they need. But I also want to know that I'm raising them to be independent, that I'm raising them with a moral compass, that I'm raising them with tools, and that I'm not there to do things for them, snowplow for them, bulldoze for them. You know, it is a very tricky balance of, you know, mom. Sebastian called me the other day. He's like, I called you from school. I'm like, you don't have a phone. How did you call me from school? He's like, I forgot my basketball bag and I called from the teacher's phone and you didn't answer. And I was like, yeah, well, you forgot your basketball bag. Sucks for you, bro. Like, if there's an emergency at school, somebody from school will call me. Like, you leaving your basketball bag at home, that sucks. Now, the game was canceled because it rained, but so he lucked out. But it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, you, and I don't want to, I'm not a parenting expert. I'm just from experience, and being a teacher, I think really adds, and my husband being a coach really adds onto like the types of parents we see. And kind of what I've adopted from that. Yeah. As my own style. Yeah.
No, I think that's also important. You know. So I love that God did him a solid on the rain. But
he is too. He is too.
But
He's like, thank you.
Yeah, I know that
thank you for this rain.
Yeah, I know we talked about that a couple episodes ago on the lack of planning, because that is an important skill that is important to learn. As far as you forgot it, you're going to have to figure it out, whatever it is. Or sometimes you're just going to not be able to participate in something. And that's the lesson that we learn.
You use the term figure it out. That's like a thing that I stole from one of my girlfriends. Shout out to Melissa Martinez. She's got 2 daughters, but with her younger one, they do what's called FIO, figure it out. So, you know, Mom, I can't get this, or I can't open this, or I need the FIO. Like when you know it's something that they can figure out on their own.
Absolutely.
With Ruby in particular, I get it. Sebastian's becoming more independent, which I love. But Ruby, it's constantly, Mama, Mama, Mama. You know, what do you need? Oh, I need you to do that. But you don't need me to do that.
You would like
I understand
me to.
You want me to do it. Yeah. But you need to learn how to do these things yourself. And I'm here to help you when you need it. And I think that's my big thing. I am here for you. I don't want you to think I'm not here for you, but you need to start at 7 3/4 years old, you know, doing some of these things on your own. FIO. Figure it out.
I love it.
Man, we covered a lot in this episode. Me too. All right, but I think we got to close it out.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Go to our website, uncommonpod.com, to get all the information about us. Follow us on Instagram at Charnopher Official. Reach out to us through that. Give us your thoughts. Tell us all the things about you that make your Mercury rise. And and
thank you for listening. Thank you for following and watching. We love sharing, so I hope that we've got some people out there who are enjoying. And chime in. Give us some comments, some questions. We'd love that.
Website, YouTube. Subscribe and like on YouTube as well. Alrighty, thanks, y'all. We'll catch you next time.
Bye. Charnopher out.
This concludes another episode of Uncommon Sense. If you're ready for more of this fresh, hilarious, and unique perspective on the world of entertainment, education, and life, be sure to subscribe right now to catch every episode. If you gasped, laughed out loud, or even snorted, share the show with your friends and aspiring entertainers, because, let's be real, sharing is caring. For more Charnopher, tune in to their witty insights by checking out the website uncommonpod.com or connecting on social media. Tune in next week and get the real insider scoop on another episode of Uncommon Sense.